Joe's in here. He can't hear us talking though.
I can't hear him speaking. I see his mic flaring, but I can't hear him.
Yeah, I didn't hear him either. Oh, this wouldn't be a Lift Review show without...
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we
can hear you now. Can you hear us? This wouldn't be a Lift Review show without you. Yeah, we can hear you now. Can you hear us? Sparking up, David's coming.
Let me text him real quick. I'm gonna grab my phone real quick.
Oh.
Yes, he's coming. He'll still be late though because he's got to put the kids down and it might take a while. But it's 48 lists, so I figure you guys will be here for a little bit.
Yeah.
I sorted them by factions. I think that'll make it significantly easier than like going back on the same list. Type of stuff.
He'll still be late though because he's got to put the kids down and it might take a while. But it's 48 lists, so I figure you guys will be here for a little bit.
I sorted them by factions.
Get caught up on anything, we'll just default to Joe.
What? I don't want to default anything to me.
He's gonna say,
You're
well,
the default, man.
Fuck.
Just go fast. Do that.
It's my theme for this weekend. I can hear now. I had to reset where my output was.
Chase, you know about Carter?
Carter said he'll be here, but he might not be able to make it till like 8. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
We know what he's doing. But I guess that's car talk.
Yeah, I guess we are kind of public. I'll straighten up and fly right. We haven't started recording it, have we, Chase?
Yep.
Damn it.
It is live on YouTube right now.
Sorry, Mom.
No, you're not. Is Derek the man of the hour?
Yeah, Derek's in charge.
I'm working on your tokens right now.
Derek, I'm assuming that's your stream.
yeah.
All we see is the Discord, by the way, Derek. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, I'm just going back and forth. Can you see it when I switch over to this?
Nope.
You can't.
You have to, usually whenever you hit stream, you have to pick a certain, either app or certain thing.
Change windows? Oh, interesting. Okay.
Look at us, we're a well-oiled machine.
In 1 minute, I'm gonna hit the at everyone.
The view, if you go up to view, you can change it to reading view. It's a little bit simpler to navigate.
Read mode.
And then change pages. Yeah. If you do one page, you'll actually be able to click on the right hand side and just go click, click, click.
Where did you get one page from?
Get out of that view and go back. Go to navigation pane. No.
Or maybe down here. Okay. This might work decently too, though.
Yeah, man, it's whatever you want to do.
Because you can see two lists at once. Yeah, I think we'll stick it like that.
Cool.
All right, you guys are official.
All right, Chase, did you want to start it, and I'll kind of pick up if you have to leave?
Oh, I'm walking away right now.
Oh, cool. Well, thanks everyone for joining us. We're kind of just going over a small list review of everything for Dark Omens 2024. We got 48 players to go through, 48 lists, so we'll try to not spend 3 hours here. So first I've got some graphics. These are from Chase. Kind of just looking at an overview. So we look at the first one. First one's kind of the drop game. We got 3 1-drops, 18 2-drops, 19 3-drops, and 8 4-drops. So it's kind of just like a reflection on where the game's at. Mostly in the 2 to 3 drop ratio. Yeah, kind of just like a testament of how shitty the regiments are, being hero locked. So, you look at all these 2-drop lists, like, what are they sacrificing in cool synergies of little heroes, stuff like that? Anyone else have any reflection?
I think Travis did the stats and stuff for all this, so I wanted to
Yeah.
that and say thank
Shout
you.
out to Travis as well. Thank you for doing that. And I believe Chase is the one who did the graphics.
Yeah.
But yeah, did you guys have any other reflections on the kind of state of the drop meta?
I mean, 2 3 drops is obviously dominating. The number of 1-drops is kind of scary, but
yeah,
I'm not surprised there's anything more than 4.
Yeah.
I think it also just talks about how trying to like outdrop and alpha strike people is sort of not as prevalent as it used to be. It may pick up more with more shooting coming more prevalent, but I think at least in the beginning you haven't seen so many people leaning super hard into it.
Yeah, I agree. I think another interesting thing about it is we see a lot of people wanting to go first. So the low drop on people who want to go first is pretty good. But yeah, moving right along, we got just a breakdown of the Grand Alliances. 17 Chaos is our most, 11 Destruction, 12 Order, and 8 Death. I think with like smaller GTs, this isn't super indicative of anything because most people are probably just playing what they wanted to play at smaller GTs. Kind of just going to the second one or the third one. We've got the Faction Breakdown. So, no big surprise. Slave to Darkness 7. We got Stormcast at 4. Bone Reapers at 4. What else we got? Heat Knights of Slanesh at 3, which is pretty freaking cool. They were kind of a faction that everyone was shitting on at the start, so it's pretty cool to see that. I don't know, you guys think that most of those are passion projects of people, the 3 people that are bringing them?
I mean, I don't know who else bringing him other than LeBron, and he's
he's a devotee.
It's nothing new to him, so yeah.
Yeah. But I will say, one thing that we do see is we see a pretty good breakdown. I think we were -3 or 4 factions here. So that's
Yeah,
pretty
no
cool.
KO.
No KO. I think it's no Bone Splitters, no Daughters, and no Fire Slayers.
I'm really surprised there's not more Luminous. And hell, there's more.
Non-Morbid Conjurations ones doing work lately?
Usually I'm sorry, go ahead.
I think I like the, I can't remember what it's called, the one with the pendulum and things like that, because the pendulum's a sneaky little thing that since it can still move in both hero phases, you can really tie up some movement with it. I think that one, I think, is a little slept on sometimes. But yeah, what were you going to say, Nick?
Joe, are you talking? Is that Joe?
Yeah, that's Joe.
Yeah.
Joe,
Yeah.
did you mean to put a voice mask on?
No, what's it doing?
You sound like a little kid.
Yeah. Like a little robot girl.
Yeah. Sounds
Try
weird.
again next time.
I mean, no power to you. Keep it that way.
Jose, you're in chat, but you're muted. I don't know if you want to chime in. Yeah. Did you also like Little Girl Joe?
Yeah, I was pretty good.
Yeah. But yeah, as someone who has been abusing manifestations for years, what do you think about manifestations right now?
I still think they're too good.
Yeah.
I don't know how they fix them, but
yeah. Have you been taking? Well, you haven't really been going magic heavy, but have you been looking into anything besides Morbid?
no. Shackles and Purple Sun are just too good.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a good default. I think it does take a little bit of skill to play. But yeah, just a good default. But moving right along. So we'll start. I have them sorted by faction, just so we can do some redundancies. But we'll start out with Stormcast. So we got Alex. Alex is a pretty cool kid. He's an 11-year-old from Wichita. He's got what I would call the sort of go-to package here that we're going to see copy and pasted in Stormcast, which is Grandis with some Praetors. Nick, you got anything to say about Stormcast right now? Especially that package that I just talked about.
The whole list is good. You know, I mean, the Dexter Lore healing, Praetor's given a 5-up ward, got good casting, Calcium Paul is just powerhouse.
I guess we could use this as like a talking point. So Alec has two things that we're going to see. So first thing he sees is we got a big dragon plus Praetors. Going to be in the General's Regiment, so you're going to be bodyguard. So this is going to be something you're going to see all the time. So you got Krondus, giant monster, really good at casting, really pretty decent at fighting, going to make you -2 attacks. So that's kind of one of the, I think it's kind of a cool thing that we're seeing in this GHB with the priority target nerf, is you're seeing big monster plus bodyguard is a cool thing. Big combat monster plus some bodyguard. And this is probably like the most abusive most abusive package you can have for that.
Yeah, when I was looking at Alex's list, he has the Vanguard Rasses in this battalion, so he could always give them priority target. So he can give them the +1 to hit, +1 to wound, and just drop them outside of 9 if he needs to be more aggressive, or if he's playing like the defensive bunker, he's going to put him on the Praetors, of course, for the -1 or -2 attacks.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty cool. It becomes expressive. It's kind of like something you can declare at the table. So you can kind of try to read the board, being like, hey, do I need this or do I need this? And you've got 2 good options. You're not really giving up too many battle tactics for Slay the Entourage, because you're the other big dragon. Some Vexillors are going to heal up both those guys. But yeah, not a lot to say here. 2 big dragons. He's going to have some fun. We'll go to the next list. We got Isaiah. Nick, would you like to read this one out? Or at least kind of go over it?
Yeah, Vanguard Wing, all their Vanguard units are going to be able to teleport. Let's see. Again, Karzai, the reverse bracketing dragon. Like, the more you hurt him, the more he's going to hurt you. And the Praetors. Knight Arcanum, I believe, is the one auto one behind. I think
so too. I think the OG one got Legends.
No, this is the +1 to cast manifestations and +1 to banish. They can't come within combat range with him.
Gotcha. Yeah, so can you talk about Indastra? She's here as well. She's going to be another package.
Yeah, she's going to be dropping from the sky, 3d6 charge, and just destroying monsters. The Stormstrike Paladors, I wasn't really high on them at first, but if he can get a warrior unit killed, which I believe the Praetors and the Vigilors and probably the Storm Coven, but I'd have to double check. If one of them units dies, they get some buffs that actually make them kind of scary, and then they're 5 wounds on a 3-up save, and so pretty nasty. The traditional long strikes, and he does have the portal for teleporting.
Cool. Yeah.
Storm Coven gives out fight first.
Nice.
Or fight last. Yeah, it's a nice little list.
Yeah, and I guess going back to this, with each new faction we'll do is we'll kind of give like a super brief overview for like, maybe people aren't super familiar with every single faction. Stormcast, obviously, everyone. So I'd say Stormcast, big picture, what they're doing, they have tons of movement shenanigans, all can drop from the sky, a lot of ways to teleport, and then kind of just like solid war. 3+ save will get you really far. So, going with that, we'll kind of see how a lot of these stuff's going. So, how do you think Isaiah is going to be using the Stormcast battle tome?
I mean, he's going to have a really tough, nasty Karzai and Praetors, as a center. That Arcanum will be in the back, but with the mirror shields, you won't be able to shoot him, and unless you're within 12. And I mean, that Storm Covenant is going to be given out first. My issue with this list is, like, there's not a lot there. Like, the Vigilors are going to get +1 to hit. They're kind of hiding up at the top right there.
Yeah.
They're going to be getting +1 to hit, and long strikes do long strike things. But I mean, that's been my issue with Stormcast list building. It's hard to get enough bodies.
In Dastra, doesn't they have like an auto charge too?
3d6 charge.
Yeah, basically an auto charge.
Yeah. Drop out
9
and 3d6, or teleport 9 and 3d6 charge.
So you gotta screen really well.
Yeah.
To avoid dealing with that.
And I think we all kind of learned our lessons from 3.0. What are the Grand Hammers called? Annihilators. It's kind of the same thing back there. So they've replaced the 7-inch deep strike with a 3d6 charge deep strike. So that's just something to think about, and we'll try to point out like the weird things that you should be thinking about while playing into it. Stormcast is back with the deep strike 3d6. So there's still kind of some play styles are let's deep strike, let's try to get some charges in.
The units that are there, though, are going to do some pretty decent damage. The long strikes, they're going to be able to hit you wherever you are. The Paladors are decent and tanky as hell. Vigilors don't do a whole bunch, but they give the bonuses.
Mm-hmm.
And then him being able to hand out fight first to fight last, and Karzai just running in, murdering folks, it's...
Yeah. Cool, yeah.
It's going to be nasty.
We'll keep it going here. Jesse, Stormdrake, Brant. Not a lot here, but we got some of the same package that we're talking about. We got the Big Dragon plus Praetors package. Also, same thing with Alec. He's got the long strikes. So as Jose had pointed out, you've got options to use the GHP, which is really cool. How do you pronounce it Yindastra? How do you? I've never actually pronounced it well.
I just say Yindrasta.
Yindrasta.
That's how I say it.
Nick, what is Sentinels of the Bleak Citadels?
Isn't that the?
That's the
just 5-up ward.
The 5-up ward for one unit of Ruination.
Does he have
the only Ruination? The Prosecutors.
Oh, interesting. Cool. Yeah.
And they also have a 3d6 charge.
Yep. So there you go. A lot of things that we try to ask, if you're familiar with an army, you kind of ask them what their tricks are. So that's going to be a trick. Deep strike 3d6. Just consider that when you're deploying. Try not to make any errors. But yeah, Prosecutors going to be the 3d6er. So is the Yindastra is what I think Charles just said. But yeah, same packages. We'll kind of keep going. We got
the script pounds are a little tricky. You got to watch out for them. I'm sorry.
They've got a.
I don't want to.
They can shoot.
We're on a time crunch.
Yeah.
If you drop in next to them within a range, they can elect up to 3 shooting units that can roll to do mortals. So.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And the Knight Relictor can lower your wards by 1.
Yeah. But yeah, we'll try not to get super into the specifics. We'll try to do the big picture. But yeah, we got Pat here. Pat's gone a little different. So what do we got here? We got some Grand Hammers. Talk to me about Grand Hammers, Nick.
They kill things really good.
Yeah.
He's gonna be able to drop them in with the Lord Imperator move, D3 inches closer, and then Gavriel Sureheart will let them roll 3 dice, pick the highest 2 on the charge.
Okay.
Yeah, it's he's gonna drop annihilators in your face and smash you.
Yeah, so here's a list that you definitely want to measure stuff out for. This is like won or lost in screening.
Storm Coven again for the fight first, fight last. The Vigilor's giving a buff to everybody. The Vanguard Raptors doing what they do. Lord Relictor instead of the Knight Relictor. Lord Relictor gets a +1 to chant, so it's easy teleports. And he's also Sentinels, so he's got the Prosecutors 5-up ward.
Yeah. All right, Joe. So if we went through all the Stormcast, how are you beating Stormcast in a couple sentences? I think Joe's out, so maybe we'll send it to Jose. What's your game plan?
Zone the board with so many movement shenanigans. Like, you're either going to hit them. Well, I mean, like pathless, you're not going to be able to hit them either just before they hit you. But everything else, you're going to have to try and do your best to zone the board.
Mm-hmm.
Spread out. Make sure you screen well.
Yeah. Also, trying to bait out those drops. So if you can bait out those deep strikes and then punish or move away after they deep strike, if you're fast enough, like that's another thing. Throwing things up that threaten that you don't mind you losing, and then moving away or jumping on things after they drop.
Yep. Really important to think about how redeploy has changed. How redeploy has changed to greatly affect the deep strike strategy. So, they drop in their deep strikers. It's at that time you can redeploy out of that. So just something to keep in mind. Even with a 3d6, you can basically make it a 2d6 if you consider your redeploy. Cool. Yeah, no, all good insights. We'll kind of go into Sylvaneth. We've got Austin first. David is probably not in chat, is he? Let's check. David, I do not see David.
I am actually here.
Oh, you are? Are
Yeah.
you able to talk through these lists for us? Well, first, what's your succinct? What's Sylvaneth trying to do, just in general? It could be two archetypes, or
Yeah, we actually do have pretty much two archetypes here. Austin has taken the more kind of defensive, static porcupine approach. Basically, the scythes are really good at getting charged and smacking back even harder. They're going to do mortals when you come into them, and just really high rend, high damage attacks. So it's pretty nasty.
But not specifically. What big picture is Sylvaneth trying to do?
Okay, yeah, so if you let me finish talking. So you're going to see the key piece is Sylvaneth isn't really going to be teleporting and deep striking anymore. The move now is to use fast movements and then Belphanos to run and charge. Both of these lists are taking a similar approach. Austin's, like I said, a little bit more defensive, and mine just really focusing on movement and big monsters. So those are the main distinctions there, and just tons of movement shenanigans, I'd say, on par, if not higher, than Stormcast.
Yeah. So take us through the specifics, the big picture specifics of Austin's list, if you can.
Sure. So, yes, Spirit of Durthu is just a incredibly damaging monster, especially good going into monster. Couple that with the scythe, so if he can give either bodyguard, depending on the matchup, or even better, +1 hit, +1 to wound, can really make those scythes really nasty. Belphanos is a key piece. He's probably going to need to protect him so he can get run and charge, because a lot of the foot stuff in Sylvaneth is pretty slow. And he's split up the great bows. I think this is probably so he can apply pressure in multiple places. A lot of times you'll see one brick of 6 bows to try to get as much efficiency out, but it looks like he's trying to apply pressure to 2 sides of the board at once. And the War Song is a good unbind and banishing piece there. And got a couple of objective monkeys in the Lancers and Tree Ropes.
Yeah, and I always try to point out a unit or a faction that's breaking rules. So I think of Belphanos' ability as one of those ones that you're really going to have to remember. David, can you talk about his Monstrous Rampage?
Yeah, so I'd say Belphanos has 2 reasons why he breaks rules, and is easily, in my mind, one of the most undercosted, still even after the bonus, or the debuff, one of the best units in order. So he's applying run and charge to 3 units board wide. There's no bubble, it just happens. There's no roll, just happens. And then also on his Monstrous Rampage, in each combat phase, on the D3 2 up, you can pull him up away from an enemy within 3, and then set him up anywhere within 1 inch of that enemy where his base will fit. So if you leave a screen and you think you're safe, if Belthanos can fit a base on the other side of that screen, he's going to get to where he wants to get. So it's something to really catch out. I've done some interesting things to get back within range, to teleport out, or to get to a key target that my opponent wasn't expecting, or even flip back onto an objective. So it's really, really powerful.
He's also got the third game-breaking thing, is that he's turning something into a Wildwoods, right?
Yes, and also does not have a health characteristic, so you can't even break it down. So it won't bring stuff back, like in my Ilarial list. You can't use it to bring stuff back, but it counts for the healing.
Speaking of your list, let's check it out.
Yeah, so like I was saying, this is more focused on mobility and kiting. I went with a big brick of bows. That's really hard to say. In my general's reg, so I can give that flexibility because they have a big wound sink, so they're actually pretty good as a bodyguard to break down, attacks and charges. As well, if I have something I really need to focus down, getting a +1 to hit and wound is great. They're great into heroes. And then I just mostly focused on big monsters and objective grabbers. But, what I'm concerned about from what I've seen is monsters' attacks can be super susceptible to variance. So we'll see.
Yeah. Cool. So what's your big picture for advice into playing against Sylvaneth?
I think it's really important to understand just how fast they can go. You'll see both of these lists have Belthanos. Understanding that, giving that command at the double and running and charging can really just sneak people can just really underestimate just how far it can spin stuff across the board, and it really just generates options. So it's a lot easier said than done, but pinning Sylvaneth down and staying outside of their ranges of their woods where they can influence the battlefield, or just destroying the woods. So that's probably my 2 key factors there.
Yeah, no, good review. This is probably our first army that does a lot of whats. So any of this sort of like niche armies, just kind of try to keep things into mind. You're probably going to get caught out by some stuff if you haven't played Sylvaneth a lot. But yeah, going forward, we got Lumineth, Realm Lords. Carter, can you tell us big picture what some of the archetypes of LRL are trying to do?
Yeah, sure. Hi, David.
Hi, guys.
So we got wizards. We have one of those. Oh, what do you do in armies? All my spellcasting is automated. I don't roll dice like a peasant, unless I want. So we've got Teclis, who provides me 4 spellcasts a turn on 10s. So unbinds are difficult. I brought the Morbid Conjuration for endless spells, which can be used for screens or going and killing things that need to die or just being annoying. We've got a little bit of a castle set up with sentinels and all of my Benara units. Lumineth, they have a rule where you can choose per turn things that they can do. And so we can choose to make all of my Benara units -1 to hit for the turn, or for the battle round, if you want. And that's probably what I'll choose 90% of the time, because it provides defensiveness to 90% of my army. The big damage output of the list is going to be in the Dawn Riders, which will hit like a truck and destroy infantry in general. And then we've got River Blades, which teleport. They can teleport to board edges during the movement phase. We've got Sentinels that just provide long-range threat output. And that's about it, really. There's Dawn Riders for taking objectives. Another thing that Dawn Riders do, or not Dawn Riders, Wind Chargers that go and take objectives. they have a rule that their shooting attacks ignore wards, which is kind of cool, but they don't do a ton of damage, but it is something to take note of. But I don't know, is there anything else you...
Yeah, no, that's a pretty good, I think everyone's played into Techless and Citadels before, so same picture. What would you give, like, big picture advice into playing into Lumineth?
Don't get trapped into going after a target and misinterpreting the damage output. Like, let's say you go, oh, I'm going to go take out those Wind Chargers. Well, the Wind Chargers are on a 4-up save, and they might have a 5-up ward, and they're 3 wounds apiece. So you got to do, like, 25 damage on average to actually get rid of them, which is not something that people consider right away. They might think of them as a squishy little unit, but they really can handle their own.
Cool. Yeah, interesting list. It's nice to see you still sticking with Techless.
It's fun.
Yeah. We will check out what we got next here. So we got cities. Nick, can you tell us big picture what cities is trying to do?
Be big blocks of melee that's going to debuff you, and got some decent hammers. Drake spawn, I'll start at the top. Told my general they're actually in cities. We still do that drop deep strike, and then I'll be able to give them an ability to move 3 inches after they drop with an order. I got a priest, got a wizard. With a place of power, she can get up to +3 to calf. Rune Lord will be +2 to chant, the main chant that I do. But just a bunch of debuffing, and the dwarves will be -1 to hit, -1 to wound, possibly a +1 to save, depending on what spells. The Drake Spawn Knights are extremely tanky. I was really kind of surprised by that, but they've done really well in combat for me. They don't do a whole lot of damage, but Executioners, just nasty on the charge. They'll do crit mortals on a 5-up and throw in 31 dice, so just do an obscene amount of mortal wounds. Stolen from Joe, the Free Guild Marshal and Griffin with Grizzled Vet can only be wounded on 4s. That's either not going to affect you at all because you already wound on 4s, or it's going to make you cry if you hit on 4s and 2s, because he's a tough nut to crack with the 4-ups to wound.
Yeah. You have a 3d6 within your or run and charge, right? One of the two?
3d6 charge.
Yeah.
I got a spell make you -1 to attacks, and then, the prayers are nothing crazy. The main one is the -1 to wound, and if I get it off with a 10+, you get a +1 to save as well.
Yeah.
So those hammers on a 3-up save, they're only 1 wound each, but on a 3-up save, -1 to hit, -1 to wound, +1 to save, and all-out defense. They're in a 5-up ward.
Yeah.
They're nasty, but they've got it's very hero dependent. Like all the commands rely on the heroes. So
yeah.
That's...
Joe, do you got any advice playing into cities?
Nah, Joe, you ain't got to say anything.
Heroes are really important, so if you can pick at the heroes and take them down, it limits his ability to give them orders, and really hand out a lot of his buffs. Cities is a lot like playing roulette against them. Like, if everything's firing, they can be really hard to deal with, but if you're missing rolls and just luck's not on your side, then they tend to lose a lot of those buffs, and they're not as intimidating as they see. But really the big thing, if you can get to those heroes and take out those orders, and basically it's a source of most of the buffs in the army. I would also say don't get caught chasing after the Free Guild Marshal. He can do damage, but he is really, really there to go hunt monsters. But yeah, that'd be my biggest thing. And just hit it, and just hopefully you can just keep clearing stuff, because it doesn't have great recursion.
Yeah. I know we have Paul in the chat. Are you able to speak on Ideneth for us? give him a little bit, see if he's able to unmute.
I don't think Chase said that they'd be able to talk unless he.
Yeah. He limited the
unmute them yourself. Actually, no, you can't. So.
Does anyone know how to do that?
Probably take a mod.
Hold on.
Oh darn. Okay. Well, sorry we silenced you, Paul.
He didn't want a whole bunch of people hollering.
Hollering. Cool. Okay. Well, we'll try to do a really bad job about summarizing IDK. IDK. Oh wait, I heard someone. What's that? Oh, maybe he's leaving and trying to come back in. Okay. Well, darn. So yeah, we'll try to do a slop job. IDK is relatively similar. Kind of, having the big thing that they're breaking is the strikes first turn. So turn 3, everything's going to strike first. So a lot of armies are going to build into that. So that's one of the things to watch out for. Looking at Paul's list, he's got Beastmasters, which is going to make his companion weapons better. So I believe Mathland is the combat one, or if that's the caster one. Does anyone know off the top of their head?
That's the caster.
The caster one. So he's got basically a -1 to save spell. Does that sound right, Carter?
I have not looked at his spells since the 4th edition.
Sure. So I think it's going to be a +1 caster, and his big spell is -1 to save. Maybe it goes to 3. Maybe I'm misremembering, but something that he's pairing into that +1 to cast is the Kronspine. So that's nice, trying to get that out. One of the movement tricks they have is they do have an unlimited teleport. So that's something huge, especially with the +1 to cast. It's something you always have to take into consideration. We'll kind of look at it at the Cruel Boys later, but it makes battle tactics really hard for you. So, how many tactics do you think? I'm going to go kill this one thing, and if it's just able to yeet out, you can kind of get left high and dry, especially if you're out there, you miss your charges with your hammers. Now they're just kind of sitting there. But yeah, looking at his list, he's got 3 or 4 units of eels. These are the defensive eels. Going to be doing decent damage because of his sub-faction. The king is the king. He's not as smashy. Yeah, it just seems... Oh, 2 kings. Nice.
I'm pretty sure he's also playing 3 individual sets of Reavers, which I believe they can run and shoot. And they have a short range, but their damage output is pretty nuts.
Yeah, pretty solid. Run charge.
All this guard can lower your attacks by 1 too.
Are you sure?
On a 3-up. Yep.
Oh, interesting. They can minus.
I have a 5-up. They have a 5-up ward.
Oh, in the turn they charge. Nice. Yeah. Super flexible. Not easy to tie down at all. You've got super fast movement on everything, plus the teleport spell. We'll look at Quentin's list next. He's got Soul Raid. Yeah, Soul Raid. This is interesting. So I don't know if I mentioned this, but IDK can sort of do the Skaven thing, but instead of Nahals, they're going to come out through board edges. So they can put something in Deep Strike, and they can come out from board edges. I don't know if it's terrain. I believe it's just board edges.
I think that they have to be near terrain or something of that nature.
Yeah, of course But anyways, Soul Raid, he is going to be able to pick stuff back up, and I believe it's infantry or cavalry is going to be able to be next to terrain, and it's going to go back into Deep Strike. So kind of just going off of... Oh yeah, and he's got a Soul Scryer too. So here, Soul Scryer is going to let something Deep Strike within 7 rather than outside of 9. Or I'm sorry, outside of 7 rather than that. So my read on this, being an ignorant IDK person, is you've got that Soul Scryer and you've got the Reavers, the block of Reavers. So he's probably going to try to be going for some assassinations. 20 Reavers are probably going to knock out most small targets they're doing. So if he's able to teleport that unit around, if he's able to pop it out from board edges, might be a little bit easy to screen with the 12-inch shooting, but kind of just applying pressure. When you always have the threat of a teleporting good shooting unit, we'll kind of look at that with Skaven later. Just like later game, when you have to open up your sort of castles, you open up your screening, it really sucks to have a really good shooting unit pop up where you didn't expect.
Those Mortar Guard they can be scary on the charge.
Mm-hmm.
They can spike mortal wounds pretty good. I mean, they're not reinforced, so you don't get as many dice, but...
Yeah, and I think both of these aspects, so we got aspect of the sea. Yeah, so they both have the package to make them a little more hard to hit. I believe one's ignoring weapon abilities, and I'm not sure what the other one is. Yeah, sorry, Paul, we're kind of a little bit ignorant on your faction. Blame Chase, he's the one that muted you.
One more thing I was going to say was they still have the Tide, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, so if you're unfamiliar with IDK, just playing against them as a whole, they're kind of, their whole, like, game strategy is kind of telegraphed from the beginning because they get, +1 to save, turn 1, run and shoot, turn 2, and then strike first across the whole army, turn 3. So that's when they want to be in combat.
Yeah, and then retreat and charge, retreat and shoot on 4. But yeah,
so
like how Jose said,
in
it's telegraphed. So it's not kind of like Fire Slayers where they have the same stuff but can get called at any turn. So just trying to see what's going to happen. What are they setting up for their next turn? And then what are they setting up for the subsequent turn? Cool, yeah, we'll keep it going. Seraphon. All right, Jose, your time to shine. Big picture, what is Seraphon trying to do?
Oh, gosh, let me see.
Do you want me to
so there's
the list really quick? Oh, I guess it's just this.
No, I got it. So this is a Sunclaw list, so it's going to be like Agridon and Proxigor heavy. Sunclaw, at the end of combat, 3 of them get to pile in and do D3 mortal damage. So that can sneak you onto objectives or just finish off a unit that's hanging on for dear life. Celestial Manipulation is going to give you run and charge. It's got a horde clearing spell, and -1 rend is the unlimited spell. Morbid Conj, the Sloan Star Master is the kind of the thinner piece, well, I guess, but it keeps the army. It keeps the army alive. So on a 4-up in your hero phase, this one can bring back half of a unit that has more than 3 models, I think. So you probably want to get to the frog as fast as you can. If you can, this list has got a unit of Agridon Lancers. The Agridons are pretty fast. They can do a lot of damage. Anti-monster. And it's all damage 2. Well, on the charge, it'll be damage 2, rend 2. 2 Hunters of Huanchi with bolas. The bola hunters are kind of carrying the Seraphon Index on their back right now. They don't do any damage, but they can drop outside of 9 of you, and then on a 3-up, it reduces your charge by 1 dice. Having 2 of those units, they can either be objective monkeys, or they can just harass the enemy hammer units and just keep them from completing any charges or getting into combat.
Undercosted.
Yeah, 90 points for 2 of them. Every list should have 2 of them. Starseer, War Scroll spell can make you not be able to take ward saves. Regular Proxigor or anti-infantry. I think the regular Proxigor can lift pretty much any unit of infantry in the game. They're anti-infantry, and then against units of 10 or more models, they go up 1 damage. So just the 2 big hammers are 8 attacks. It'll be 2s and 2s, rend 2 for 4 damage apiece. I always think of the other 4 smaller hammers as just extra wounds for those 2 big hammers. So as long as you don't lift the whole unit, it really doesn't matter how much damage you do to those to that Proxigor unit, because the 2 big hammers is where the output's coming from. A unit of skinks, just objective monkeys, and the Recordon Chargers. Chargers are really, really fast. In this list, not so much, but There's still 12 base move. They can be 14. He does have Beastmaster, so that's an extra 2 inches. And then he can take the Asterism for another 2 inches. The 4 choices for Asterisms for Seraphon is +1 to cast, +2 to movement across the whole army, -1 rend while you're in your territory. That can be super strong on some battle plans. And then Exploding Sixes for companion weapons, which this list would benefit from quite a bit.
The cool thing about your Asterisms is you pick them at the table, right?
Yes. So just start the game, like whenever you pick your priority target or whatever.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So can you go over your list briefly?
Yeah. Same thing. Fallen Star Master. My sub-action is Shadow Strike. So I get to move 3 skink units in my shooting phase. It can be cab or just on-foot skinks. But the cool thing is that it's an ability, so I can choose the timing on it myself. So I can either shoot with a couple units and then do that ability, or I can use that ability to just get a little bit of ground to get all of my shooting units within range. Or the bolas can drop outside of 9, shoot you, roll their 3 up, and then bounce, which is a strategy. I've got a unit of Kroxigor Warspawn. They're -1 rend to shooting. Comes up all the time because there's tons of shooting right now. 2 units of 10 Chargers. The Chargers in my list are a little bit faster because of that extra D6 movement in the shooting phase. So they're going to go their base 12-inch move, +2, and then plus a D6 in the shooting phase. People underestimate that a lot. They can pretty much get on a regular 22-inch away board map to the back end of the opponent's board, which a lot of people don't expect. With a good charge roll, of course, but then a unit of Source Guard, just keeping the Slan alive. The Guard and the Slan will have a final board when they're within 3 inches of each other. Starseer, again, no ward spell, 18-inch range. And then Codal Familiar lets us roll an extra D6 on 1 cast, 1 time. Once per game. Usually that's on either like a really important run and charge or trying to take a ward away from something that you need to kill, like a Karazai or Krondys or something. Yeah. But yeah, big picture, there's a lot of units. We've got a lot of tools. And then the Slan's recursion creates like really well balanced, like lots of options. We're able to score pretty much all of our battle tactics pretty consistently. I would say the big thing is like our saves aren't great. So like on my list, it's mostly Chargers. So it's very wound dense. I've got 90 wounds of Chargers, but it's on a save. So you can chop through that pretty fast. Then I start running out of options to score battle tactics. And I don't really have anything that can stand on circles super well.
Yeah. Cool. Right on. All right. So now we're breaking into Chaos. So we'll talk to Joe here. Beasts of Chaos. If you could give like a really brief description of what they do, maybe like 4 words.
Yeah, go fast, eat ass. That's what we do.
All right. No, but big picture, what is Beast doing?
Being the only Beast list here, I might as well just say what it's doing in terms of me. It's basically having the option to either start off the board or mostly off the board. The Dragon Ogres are decently tanky. I mean, they're 4 up with 5 wounds apiece, and then they count as cavalry as well, which is interesting. So a lot of people don't get bonuses against them. The big thing that makes them pretty scary to go up against, if they're charged, they have a chance to get strike first. And they do mortals on 6s, so, and they're 2 damage apiece base, so they're really easy to get charged and could wipe out a unit before they even get the swing on them at all. Big thing is like, there's just whatever's deployed off the board is eventually going to come off the board edges and get some, D3 movement like the Stormcast get to do, and usually have a +1 to charge as well. So it's looking to Most of the time I've seen Beast play, they're waiting for people to move themselves out of position and capitalize on that and sort of hit and overwhelm as hard as they can. That way it makes you fighting back harder. So yeah, that's big picture.
Cool. So what are some things people should be looking at playing against Beasts?
Again, sort of the same thing we had with Stormcast. Be mindful of where I can pop up. I have to come from the board edges. So be mindful of that stuff. Like, don't put that really, important piece near where it can get suddenly dogpiled by 3 units, and now suddenly your big support piece that you need for the game, like a Kragnos and an Iron Jaw list, is now gone, where now you're losing your 3d6 charge or your Belthanos. And just understand that it's not super tanky. Like, it's sort of the same problem Jose was talking about. There's just like, it can't take a hit super well, so if you can get into things, or you can survive those initial hits, you'll do fine. But they still have a few things that you gotta be careful of too. Like, same thing with Seraphon. They have the ability on a 4-up to bring back a unit half strength. They get ways to move 3d6, and whenever something ambushes, it gets an extra charge. So there's definitely ways to move around your positioning, but mostly be very mindful of where everything is at the time.
Cool. Yeah, good summary. Does anyone know Korn very well? I know nothing about him.
I mean, I probably know enough to talk about him.
Sure, yeah. Do you have a big picture of what they're trying to do?
I mean, looking at his list, I mean, it's going to be mostly focused on those Skull Reapers are the biggest damage outputs. I don't even see a big, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't even see a Bloodthirster anywhere in the list. So I think it's the Skull Reapers are the biggest threat. Mighty Skull Crushers are pretty tanky. I think they're on a 2-up save and 5 wounds apiece, something like that. So I can see them playing the side objectives or playing the flanks really well, and you have to dedicate force to them. Wrathmongers. Yes, they do. He actually got 3D printed Mudang hippos, so it should be adorable. Wrathmongers are doling out extra attacks to other units, so I think it's mostly about just pumping up those attacks and just clearing units. The little Regiment Renown also offers him some spell casting as well as some cheap units that can do some decent hero hunting, because I think Brand gets some bonuses against heroes, and I think if you can kill a hero, he can get pretty spicy after that. But I think it's mostly just using the Skull Crushers to go push flanks, and then using the Skull Reapers as the big threat that's going to push the board around where he needs to.
Yeah, going back to big picture, what are some things we should be looking out for with Blood Tithe?
Oh, that fun thing. Be very mindful of the fact that he can use very few Blood Tithe points to move in the hero phase, and he can move into combat. So a lot of times people will do things where, maybe you'll say like, oh, I'll have to go kill that unit for this battle tactic, and then they'll use a Blood Tithe and just move another unit into combat. So now you're stuck. You can't get that, what you thought was an easy battle tactic. Or same thing, like maybe you pick, we have to fight 2 without dying, and then he does a Blood Tithe to move away, and then there's a prayer he can use to also move away, and next thing you know, the redeploy, now suddenly what you thought would have been an easy 3-inch charge, even after you move, it's like a 10-inch charge. So it's deceptively faster as well than what you may think. Yeah, I mean, the Blood Tithe is, or even just, the same thing too, you can just completely stop a spell. So if you need like that one spell to go off, that's like the crutch of your army, like he can just stop it with those things. So those are things to be mindful about, maybe being mindful of how much Blood Tithe he has and what he can do with it.
Yeah, and like you said, I think the 2 to look out for are auto spell stop and the Murderlust. Where's the chat? I can't find the live chat. He's been trying to talk to us. Oh, here we go. Let me look. Yeah, mostly he just said that Murderlust is in the movement phase, so you are going to get a move away, so there is like a little bit of counterplay to that. But yeah, just be mindful. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, but he can Murderlust and then redeploy off of that as well.
Yep. Yeah, so just there are some game-breaking things, and obviously every army is breaking the game a little bit. That's kind of the fun. But that's one of the things to think about is I'm playing against something a little different. How are they going to try to stop my battle tactics? And Murder Lust, and I forgot what the Stop the Spell one is, but two really good ones. Going forward, what do we got here? We got Disciples of Tzeentch. Okay, so I didn't watch Tzeentch for a while. Big picture, what Disciples of Tzeentch are going to do, obviously they're going to dominate magic, so all of their counter spells are going to go off super, maybe like 75% they're going to go off. What they're going to be doing is they're going to be focused on, they're going to get all of their tactics, and they're going to try to stop your tactics. They're not going to be doing a lot of damage. We'll look at two ways that the people are trying to do damage, but honestly, they don't do a lot of damage. What they do have is board control. One of the things they can do is they have a teleport spell that's going to be going off really accurately because of Kairos' ability. Basically, he's just going to cast really well. So you're going to have to be thinking, he's going to get a big unit that he doesn't care about anywhere he wants, just to kind of gum up the board or whatever. We're going to look at horrors. They're good targets for that. So you're going to say, I'm going to take their lands. Okay, well, I'm going to teleport my guy over there. Or, hey, I'm going to, charge 2 units. Oh, the unit you're going to charge 2 is gone. That's kind of one of those game-breaking things that you need to think about. So, your go-to battle tactic might be 75% chance it's going to go away. So that's kind of what they're doing. I'm sure they both have Morbid. Let me check. Yeah, both have Morbid. So Kairos is going to be shitting out 4 spells a turn. So what may look light is going to be a little bit buffed up by 4 endless spells on the table every turn. Can just get so exhausting having to spend all of your good money on hitting these endless spells off. But mostly what they're doing, both of these lists are kind of demon focused. They're just going to debuff the piss out of you. Their mechanic, it's not that great, but it's going to, in each shooting phase, basically almost every shooting phase, you're going to get burned. So both of their sub-factions going to debuff you further. So you can kind of look at it, you're just going to get debuffed, so debuffed. They've got, spells to debuff, auras off of the Lord of Change to debuff. They have units that are just going to tie you up. That's kind of been what pink horrors have been throughout Age of Sigmar. It's just like you got to spend good money hitting these things, and sometimes your monsters and stuff like that might not even clear them. But that's the big picture of what they're doing. They are board control, they're getting all of their tactics, and not really doing a lot of damage. So we'll kind of look at this list. Kairos Fateweaver, super good caster, 3 spell caster. Going to be super accurate with his magic, but mainly one of the big things he's going to be doing is he's going to be able to repeat a battle tactic. So he can also take 2 battle tactics, but more than likely someone's just going to repeat one of the easy battle tactics. So basically it's just really hard to get them in a place where they are not going to get a battle tactic. So if you think about, what's battle tactics, 20 points? 20 points out of 50? They almost have all those in the bank. So we got Kairos, we got some horrors, pink and blue, just a huge wound sink, especially, does he have Lord? Yeah, he has Lord of Change, so they're going to be probably -1 to hit. Likely your hammers are going to be -1 to wound, so just overall debuffed. He's got the Lord of Change in there, which is also just going to be kind of like this land. He's going to be returning models, or he's going to be returning demon units at half strength. But it's guaranteed, so he's just going to throw away one of his Destiny dice, which I guess I should mention too. They're like the game-breaking aspect of this one. That they roll 9 dice at the beginning, and they're going to be taking those dice, and they're going to be able to replace those with certain rolls. So a lot of times, say you have a huge 4 damage attack, they can just substitute one of their Destiny dice as a 6, substitute it in there. Or say they need to get a spell off, they're just going to guarantee it with their Destiny dice. Oh, sorry, hold on, Sunday, I'll be right back.
So while he's taking care of the dog,
I'm back.
Can I say real quick,
yeah,
these
sure,
two guys, Connor, probably one of the most pleasant people I've ever played. He's a stand-up guy. and I hope you all get the chance to play him because he's a great guy. And Joe Cryer is a really good player. So bring your A game if you're playing him because he is really good.
Yeah. But yeah, just going further into it, one of the sources of damage that Connor's taken is flamers. They've got short range, 12-inch shooting. It's okay, but it's Ren 0. So a lot of these, you're going to have a lot of your units on the table at the end of the game. You just maybe won't have as many battle tactics, and you won't have been able to score as well as you'd like. But yeah, this list is kind of the same thing. You got the 2 big birds, getting spells out, teleporting people around. If we look at Joe's list, it's relatively similar. I can't remember exactly what the Changeling's doing. He's doing some weird infiltration thing.
He's teleporting outside of like 3 inches of you, and then casting that spell to turn something into into the
spawn.
Yeah, into the spawn.
Yeah, so he doesn't teleport. He in deployment he will redeploy anywhere outside of 3 inches. So that's another weird game breaking thing. I think, like you said, he's got a couple options. He could be Joe's taking a chaos spawn. So one of their spells, I don't love the spell. It's D3 mortal wounds. If something dies, it will turn into a chaos spawn. So say if you've got a shooting unit that's 1 wound shooting things, it's going to kind of cripple them. So keep that in mind. But notably, what Joe's brought, he's brought less horrors, so a little less board control. But he has brought the Caleb Walters special of 6 Skyfires. These are like hyper mobile, pretty good shooting units. Notably, they're going to be a good counter shoot or covering fire unit as well. So kind of the same package, but just with Skyfires. So a little less board control, a little more damage. And Skyfires can move so far, shoot so far, so they can really open things up. What I would say, playing into these guys, is just understand that they have such low damage. If you are able to take advantage of that, take advantage of your maybe your units you want to keep protected, they don't need as much protecting. So you can send a lot into there. And if you're able to overwhelm them, there's not much they can do. Because like I said, with returning models, they're going to have to return models outside of 9. So if you're able to take board control where they're taking it, they're going to be, your bodies are going to kind of screen their bodies out of being relevant when they're resummoning.
And those blues splitting into brimstones, you can do all kinds of nifty things with that. Ryan Cabin gave me a master class on it in Monkey.
He was actually incorrect. We didn't rule it correctly. You can't do what he was talking about. You have to, it's just the returning models is the same as it was in 3rd. So you can't daisy chain them anymore.
Oh, they just FAQ'd that though, so I bet you could before, and now you can't.
No, it's always been that way. They FAQ'd to clarify one thing, but you always have to pop up within coherency of a model that was already there. So you have to put them back to the original model. You can't put one down and then next to it. You have to there's actually a weird thing that if somehow you kill them down to 1 and then you for some reason can't put any more models back, they can't return from that one model that was remaining.
Yeah, that would just be my advice. Know that rethink your tactics because a unit can either disappear very easily or can appear in a place you don't want. But overall, do you guys have anything else to say about Tzeentch besides what I kind of rambled about? Very hard faction to play is what I'll also add.
Stay 18 inches away.
Not really. No, that's no longer. Their spell damage is so low. They've got an infinite D3. These things have 5 casts, and they have way better stuff to be casting than D3 mortals. Cool. Yeah, moving it forward. Hedonites. Does anybody know Hedonites relatively well?
I've glanced it over.
Okay, well, you're going to have to bastardize, do LaRon injustice here.
Okay. Let me see. Secret Cavalcade.
Can we also praise LaRon for being one of the coolest people ever?
Praise LaRon.
LaRon is great.
Yes.
I already forgot what Secret Cavalcade does, but I think it's retreat. I'm sorry. I think it's retreat and
LaRon's
charge.
in chat. LaRon, tell us the big picture of what. Tell us what.
How hard Blue chooses to kill.
Yeah. No, tell us the big picture of what Heat Knights are trying to accomplish. Hard.
Is he typing?
He's
I'll
typing
talk.
it. Yeah, sure.
I'll talk while he types. So Secret Cavalcade is retreat and still be able to charge. Glutos, I believe it's like 18 or 20 wounds on a 4-up save. His spell reduces your movement and charges in half. It's an 18-inch range, so you want to get to him from outside of 18. The only problem is the Twin Souls do the same thing that the Praetors do, so they're going to reduce your attacks by 1. So that means he can make that his bodyguard and reduce your attacks by 2. So if you get into him, then you're probably not going to do as much damage as you hope. The Seekers are just objective monkeys, and then the Bliss Barb Seekers are really fast and decent shooting unit. But the trick with, I think, all of their output is that they have a unlimited spell that's board wide that gives a unit crit mortals. So they can, I guess he can cast it twice, and he can just pick any unit on the board, and then they're going to have crit mortals. So they can they can spike really hard on damage. And those Bliss Barb Seekers are 40 wound blocks, and they're on 5-up saves, but it's going to take like a dedicated hammer to be able to get rid of them. Otherwise, he's just going to be able to retreat out and still shoot you and still charge you.
Do you know enough to talk about the Temptation Dice?
Yeah, so the Temptation Dice, he gets to pick 3 units, and up to 3 units, and hand you 3 dice. Those dice, you're able to replace certain rolls. I think it's like charge rolls, hit rolls, save rolls, stuff like that. And used to, you would just use it and it would be a 6, but with the last update, now you have to roll it on a 1 and 2. You keep your 1 and 2. And you take D3 mortals. On anything else, a 3-up, you get that 6. So it's kind of good, but it's better for the Slanesh player now, because used to it was just shooting yourself in the foot.
What does you pick the 3 units and they get what? I know
they get to run, shoot, and charge.
Okay. Gotcha.
So all those 3 units, like his, the footed archers, the Bliss Barb archers, I think they're 6-inch moves, so he's going to be able to move up to 12 and then shoot 18 inches. The Bliss Barb Seekers are, I think, going 12 plus a D6 and shooting another 12. So he's got really good range on his shooting and really good speed. Everything is super fast and can run and charge and retreat out of combat and still charge and shoot.
Yeah, so, and what LaRon also said is you also get crit 2 hits. Each one of those units that you pick, each one of the 3.
Oh yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So I'll ask LaRon a question before I start reading it. Are you giving out all 3 units every turn? Are you giving them exalted, or what's the term for it? Are you picking 3 units, LaRon? But yeah, I'll just read what he's talking about. So we kind of asked LaRon. What's the big picture? He said there's a lot of misdirection and sneaky durability. So the sneaky durability is kind of what Jose was talking about. Those Twin Souls are going to reduce your attacks by 2. So, you see a 4-up save, but if you're -2 attacks, kind of not that. He also said that Temptation Dice are a double-edged sword. They could help you play the best game you've ever had or ruin you. Let's see. He said that's a secret. Euphoric. Yeah, that's the word. LaRon's not telling us his sauce, but he said that's a secret. But yeah, he's making 3 euphoric. So yeah, it sounds pretty fun. I know Vince Venturillo is not too hot on it, but it's kind of what Slanesh's identity's been. It's been interesting. You've got interaction, so it's like, hey, let's play my faction together. Yeah, Laurent said it's much better than after launch or at launch. So that's good. All right, so we'll go into the next. We got Zach. Can you try to speak on this, Jose?
This one I didn't look as closely at, but the two monster twin sister thingies are pretty decent combat monsters, especially for their price range. Is that the one I'm looking at? The one with never mind. I was thinking of the one with Dexessa and Sinessa. This one I'm not sure. I didn't look at this one at all, but it's got Sigvald, which I'm assuming he still does decent damage. The Twin Souls again are there to reduce your damage or your attacks by 2. This list actually has 3 of them, so that can probably be nasty. I don't know if it stacks, but at least he'll have more than one place where he can be tanky. It also has Glutos.
I don't think it'll stack because of the rule of 1. You can't be affected by the same passive, the same name.
Yeah.
Also, Jose? Are you trying to say that you only studied Laurent's list?
Yeah, that's the only one I looked at.
Are you trying to look out for Laurent?
I am.
No one else matters. Oh, they do
have a grudge. Yeah.
Well, if they didn't, they would have met him round 5 anyways, right?
Right.
All right, cool. Sorry, I interrupted you. Oh, he grudged you for a reason. Laurent, are you nervous that he's doing his research on you? All right, sorry. Go ahead.
Anyway, Glutos, like I said, 18-inch range on his spell. Don't get stuck trying to get to Glutos because, like I said, it'll reduce your movement and your charges by half. So if you're not a fast army and you're trying to get into them, you can get stuck there and then obviously not do a lot of damage because of the Twin Souls. It's got 2 units of archers, so again, lots of mortal wounds if they spike. I'm not sure what the mask does. Fiends are.
I think it is that deployment can be like 3 inches out thing as well.
Oh yeah, and then Glutos heals 6, 1 unit within, I think wholly within 12. It just automatically heals for 6 every turn. So let's say you do get into Glutos, do a little bit of damage, and then he just heals it for 6. The Feign, I think it gives you +1 to cast, but it also does damage to yourself, if I remember correctly.
Cool. Yeah, so we'll keep going. We got Jake's list.
Jake's Dexessa and Sinessa have like a symbiotic thing going on. I think Dexessa buffs Sinessa's to where she gets like an extra cast or they get an extra cast or something like that. These are the ones that are pretty good combat monsters, I think, for their price point, especially like 240. It's like 8 attacks, damage 2 or 3 or something like that. Rend 2, I don't know. But they seemed pretty good combat monsters. Demonettes, I think, is a lot of attacks.
It'll be 30, 31.
Yeah, so volume of attacks. The Keeper of Secrets, he's got the recursion for the army, so same thing that the Spawn has. In their hero phase, they can bring back half of a demon unit. So all the demonettes and fiends or whatever you kill, half of it can come back if you don't kill the Keeper of Secrets.
Cool. Yeah, we'll try to go to the next list. Oh, that's all there. I asked Laurent in chat if he could give us the quick take on how to play into Slanesh, but we'll come back to that. So we got one Magakin list. I'm sorry, what'd you say, Joe?
Because he doesn't want to tell us.
Oh, he's not telling us the sauce. All right, well, we'll let him keep his secrets. Okay, let's talk about Magakin. Nick, you said you kind of looked into him a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not super knowledgeable about him, but I mean, it's a 1-drop, and Great and Clean One is, a big tanky 5-up ward across the board. Great and Clean One's going to be a tough deal to move. Plague Bears, nothing really to worry about, but they can be, annoying to clear out. The Blight Lords hit decently, can move pretty good.
Does anyone know this sub-faction? Because I think the sub-faction is really relevant. But yeah, talking on what their allegiance abilities are, they kind of got a disease mechanic. So anything they're in combat with is going to become diseased, and you're just going to be taking mortals, or you're going to be spreading that disease. One of the big things that Guo is doing for you is he's getting that off turn. So with a spell, he can make someone diseased. So that's pretty big because he's going to be just spreading the disease better. But one of the big things with disease is it is going to be able to be rallied off. So sub-faction is very relevant. Okay, let's see what Larry's saying.
The Putrid Blight Kings are a handful. 3 wounds each, 3 up save, 5 up ward. So 30 wounds on a 3 up, 5 up.
Yeah. We're Larry's in chat right now, so we're going to try to have him give us a quick rundown. So we will come back to this list because we're bad at Nurgle.
Okay. Say one thing. The Guo is their recursion piece as well. So same thing as everyone else on a 4 up, half a unit.
Yeah.
Can he only do demon units?
Yeah.
I think so.
Because I think those are all. I think the Plague Bears are the only. I thought the Blight Lords were and Blight Kings were.
Yeah. Anyways,
mortals.
We'll come back to it because Larry's giving us the rundown here. So Skaven. Skaven's another one of the interesting ones that are breaking a lot of rules. So big picture, Skaven have a ton of movement tricks. So they got gnaw holes. We'll try to, so I'll give you like a handful of things to keep out for. Gnaw holes are going to pop up at the start of every round, and they can move units, basically teleport them from one to the other. So always keep that in consideration, especially because I believe most of these things are going to have rattling guns in them. This is one of those things where shooting units are going to be where you don't expect them, unless you're looking out for it. So gnaw holes are one movement trick that they're going to have. Just look that up, ask them a lot of questions, because they can pop up in places you don't expect. And then you can, shit out a shooting unit who's just going to absolutely destroy stuff. Another huge one they have is 3 claw steps ahead. So this is in the enemy hero phase, they're going to get a full movement with one of their units. So, like we're talking about, I need to charge this unit to get my battle tactic. It might be 6 inches plus a redeploy away. So, a lot of things could be seemingly out in the open, and then you're like, oh, cool, a tasty morsel. But it's not, because they have a lot of movement tricks. They have some recursion through the gnaw holes as well. So playing around gnaw holes are pretty important. However, there can be a max of 3 gnaw holes out. So potentially you don't want to take out certain gnaw holes. Because now there's the unexpected's kind of gone. So say if you take out a gnaw hole for no reason, you've just given your opponent another place for one to pop up. So that's something to think about. They also have a teleport hero spell, and they do have some good casters. So this is one of those that a lot of stuff is going to be unexpected. So you should be asking a lot of questions about movement tricks because they're going to have a ton. Joe, you're kind of into Skaven. Do you have any other big picture things to add before we get into specifics?
Also know that the gnaw holes pop up at the beginning of the turn, so it's one of those things where turn order really matters, because if you're taking first, that gnaw hole has to pop up at the beginning of that turn, so you have a good idea of where it's telegraphed, where it's coming out. It's not something where if the Skaven player is going second, he can wait till it's his turn to pop up the gnaw hole. So again, it's one of those things of turn order actually matters a lot. And other than that, big picture stuff is be aware of their sub-factions. It sort of tells you an idea of what they're focusing on.
Sure. Yeah. Going into the specific here, we got Clayton's list. So we've got Vizik is a very large priest, double caster priest. Mostly what he's going to be enabling is he's going to be enabling a fight twice. So if I look at this person's list, he doesn't quite have the greatest targets for fight twice, so that's interesting. But here's another, so here's some even more movement tricks. We'll look at the Warp Seer, which I'm a huge fan of. Warp Seer is going to add 2 inches to their scurry away, or their 3 claw steps ahead thing. So now that's going to be a full movement plus 2 inches. So you really, really have to take that into consideration, that one unit can just totally fuck off. He also has scurry away, which is going to be our first kind of instance of a ability to, in the combat, they can 3+ retreat. So, just another thing, say if you have to kill something or whatever, that unit can go away. So, just so many movement tricks within, especially this list, to take into consideration. But mainly, here we go. We've got the sort of demon of the meta right here. We've got 2 groups of 6 Rattling Guns. Has anyone played any Rattling Guns, or just kind of know the myth of them so far?
I've seen Warp Fires.
Yeah.
Deals, yeah. Yeah, they're nasty. This list is gonna be an issue for a lot of people. I wouldn't be surprised to see Clayton do really well.
Mm-hmm.
Skaven alone they're tricksy, but then add in those 2 Rattling Guns and not gonna be pretty.
Just take into consideration, Rattling Guns are going to do a ton of attacks. What is it? It's going to be like 6d6? Or is it, how many attacks are they each?
6d6.
So it's going to be 18d6? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's going to be a shitload of shots.
They kill anything they want to.
His sub-faction is going to help the Rattling Guns. So Rattling Guns are super important. And just think about all the movement tricks that he can do with those to get those in places you don't think. But yeah, that's the big picture of this list. It's interesting. 3d6 per one. Okay, so that's a lot. Vizik doesn't really belong here to me.
Just fun.
He's just fun, yeah. But yeah,
he also casts a curse on the enemy turn, or a prayer.
Oh yeah, as worded, he's going to be praying twice in the enemy turn.
You get 2 on your turn, and then you get 1 on your opponent's turn, and then you can spend a CP to do 1 on your opponent's turn.
Well, because the War Scroll specifically says that his War Scroll spell says hero phase, it doesn't say your hero phase. So I think you can only pray for the War Scroll on your enemy's turn.
Yeah, but then you can magical intervention.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, I'll copy and paste it.
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, that's his list. Just Rattling Guns are kind of the demon of the meta right now. Just taking into consideration all the venues that they can go for. Yeah. So we got Jordan. He's got the more melee focused one. His subfaction is a melee one. Dude, he's got Vizik again. Let's see if he has anything that they can enable. Rat Ogres, here you go. So Vizik is basically going to be juicing up the melee units, which are the Rat Ogres. Plague Pack is just another cheap priest, so he's got really good prayers. So just expect his melee units to be doing really well. So he's got Rat Ogres, which are kind of a glass hammer, a wound-dense glass hammer. He's got Storm Fiends, which also can be buffed by a sub-faction. So, Vizik's going to be buffing up one of those units to become a kind of a blender, a fight twice blender. And then we got 6 Rattling Guns, which is kind of going to be a staple. Does have a Gracier paired with the Kronspine. Gracier is going to be casting 3d6. Pick the top 2. Wait, did we have... No, we didn't. I thought I saw Thankful. Maybe not. Yeah, kind of the same. It's actually kind of totally different. Has some punch to it. So just taking into consideration... Huge punch, and then, returning half of the units through a gnaw hole. Yeah, not much more to talk about besides the big picture. A lot of the big picture things we talked about is going to be more important than the specific units, because all Skaven units are kind of shitty and can be grouped into like, a really basic threat range. But yeah, big picture. I thought we had 3 Skaven, or did we just have 2? Okay, maybe not. Yeah, does anyone have any like big pictures of playing into Skaven?
I mean, if you can play around the null holes, like zone them out. So if you like don't destroy them, but put a cheap unit next to them that won't kill them, then they sort of effectively turn off those null holes. I mean, you can effectively stop, dictate where things pop up if nothing has popped up yet. Like you can almost shut down part of their whole army by simply just turning off those null holes where things are coming out. Be mindful of ranges, that type of stuff. Try not to jump into things until you're ready to. To me, that'd be one of the bigger things, is just be mindful of like all those ranges. Definitely when you're trying to play around rat and guns, and like be mindful of null holes. Like.
Yep.
Oh.
So on the missions where you're pulling objectives, if they do have the 3 null holes, that's for you, Charles. If you do have those null holes, 3 null holes out, pull objectives that are close to those, so they're, not as useful anymore. That might be a plan if they get that many out. Because I believe we're playing one of the pull objective missions.
Interesting question I thought of is, if you completely surround a unit that can retreat from combat, can they still retreat since they don't have fly?
They wouldn't be able to pass through. So, no. They could pass through the combat range, but they still can't pass through the unit.
Yeah. So just something to think of, if you can like swarm that warp seer or anything like that, then you could prevent them from just doing the bounce out of combat thing. That was it.
Not a bad idea.
Slaves?
Larry's got his breakdown on Nurgle, if you want to read that, Derek, in the chat.
Oh, I think Derek. I guess Derek left. Larry said don't group up your units in combat against them. Disease is hard to get going, especially against heavy healing factions, but once it gets going and spreads to your army, it does a surprising amount of damage against any specific list. Keep the affliction cyst in mind, because if you're looking to capitalize on weak points. Basically what the affliction thing does, I think you can pick up those bug units, and this is after deployment, you're going to pick them up and put them 9 inches anywhere on the board, so you basically...
I'm sorry. The beginning of, third, when Nurgle was doing that, when they got their book, and Pin and Win just throw a crap ton of flies at people, and you got to chew through them to even start getting into objectives,
But that's definitely good advice too from Larry, that like understand a lot of Nurgle is chip damage, so if ever at the end of every hero phase you're taking D3 mortals and you can't heal through it, like it's just going to chip away at you. So try not to bunch up unless you have to, because I know there's ways to spread the disease if you're standing next to another unit. Like instead of doing mortals, you can like spread it to other units, so it can get out of hand pretty quick. I think Derek is having issues.
Yeah, his internet died. All right, let's keep going. I'll take over unless one of y'all want to. Or we can.
You can do it.
Slaves of Darkness. First we got Savannah. So she's running a 1-drop Slaves of Darkness. Bellicor. Sorry, I clicked on too many. Chosen, Furies, Knights, and Vanguard. 1-drop, lots of smash you in the face. The Knights are Nurgle marked, so they're, the more tanky unit. Everything else is Khorne marked. So lots and lots of attacks from the Chosen and the Vanguard. It's it's pretty straightforward. It wants to come and punch you in the face, and every chance it gets, it's going to throw another punch and another punch. There's not a whole lot to say about an army like that one. It's very straightforward. Bellacor's got some tricks. He'll be able to turn off abilities and make one turn an extremely hard turn. Anybody else got anything they want to throw in there?
I mean, really,
the Furies can bounce out of combat.
Yeah, they're just objective grabbers, but there's one of those annoying units that, like, it's worth to engage them, but sometimes it's also not, because they can get that ability to bounce out. Next thing you know, you're just helping someone get objective markers. It's one of those weird ones where it's just like, it may seem like a waste, but if you can throw some shooting at them, just clear them out. It's actually not a bad choice, because it removes a lot of battle tactic options, where now they have to take their more dedicated hammer, their units that are more dedicated to not having to go be sitting off the side of the board. They have to go move those things over to do those things, so they're not bad targets for shooting out things like Furies, or like that 5-man unit of, sometimes I see people take of the Horsemen, the Dark Oath. So like those make some decent shooting targets as well. Trying to pull the list up.
The reinforced unit of Vanguard, Corn Marked, that's the nasty smash. And then you got a unit of unreinforced Chaos Knights, Nurgle Marked, so it'll be -1 to wound. Reinforced Chosen Corn for the extra attack, doing crit mortals 2 damage. They're throwing a bunch of attacks. Them and the Vanguard be able to fight twice. And, Be'lakor being ethereal can kind of be a handful, unless you usually have to dedicate a little bit more to them than you want to get them to go down.
Yeah, I think the big thing, too, is just, like, understand, if you're not sure, ask what all the marks do, and make sure, like, you understand who's marked what, because, like, throwing something into something Nurgle mark, you may not do as much damage as you hope, or like understanding that you need to get something Corn mark tied up in the combat so it's not getting those extra damage. So I think against slaves, make sure you ask like who's marked what, and try to keep it, or try to do something, or at least hopefully your opponent has something for you that will help keep track for you. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Eye of the Gods. If they kill a unit, they get to roll in the Eye of the Gods and get buffs like heal 3 or +1 to hit, extra rend, 6 up ward. They already have a 6, it becomes a 5. They can get rolling and get real nasty.
Yeah. Yeah, they can easily. Then there's some not so like bad, like if they don't get the rend. I mean, the ward's nice. A few of the other things. So, yeah.
You want to go over Sean's?
Yeah, I mean, it has a lot of your standard stuff, but here I think the big difference that you see is 2 Gaunt Summoners, which sounds like both of those Orgroids are going to get thrown in the tower somewhere, so it's going to be trying to get the spells out so they can drop in within 7 and guarantee their charges. So sort of the same concept that we've seen with Stormcast, having things to zone them out. Looks like it is a 20 block of warriors, so good chance their whole goal is to just protect those summoners so you can't drop in and kill them. They make prime targets for shooting. But I think the big thing is he's going to use the teleport to drop those Orgroids in to just clear out whatever he needs. They're pretty much a huge threat to anything that's infantry, and they're still a pretty good threat against anything that isn't infantry. If I'm going to
Sean's also a really good player.
Yeah.
He'll know his army well, and it won't be an easy match. All right. Next up, we got Daniel Phelps. Another God's Wrath Warband. They can spoil an objective and do D3 Mortals, I believe, on a roll.
Mm-hmm.
Got a Demon's Prince, wings so he can fly. Chaos Knights, again. But these are marked Corn, so they're going to be extra attack on the charge. So they're going to do pretty good damage on the charge. And, I mean, they just got 3-up save naturally, so they're pretty tanky. Chaos Warriors, Nurgle Marked, just a handful to get up with a 3-up save and -1 to wound. And fairly wound dense. 2 units of Chaos Warriors, Nurgle Marked. Some pretty good screens. And objective sitters. Nurgle Marked Vanguard. I don't see that often. That's kind of a cool change. Usually they're Corn marked, but Vanguard don't really need the extra damage. So -1 to wound is pretty cool. Chaos Sorcerer Lord being able to give out a 5-up ward is with Oracular Visions is super handy. Wizard. Let's see. We've got a Chaos Chosen, Nurgle marked, -1 to wound, doing fairly good damage. The Gorebeast Chariot, I'm not really familiar with. I mean, I'm seeing the model, but I'm not familiar with the rules. But also Nurgle marked. I'm guessing it's fairly fast and got a decent pool of hit points like most chariots. But the Slaves is pretty much. I don't want to say they're all the same because, but they're very much combat melee focused, either offense or defense. And if they're focused on the offense, their defense is still pretty good, and the other way around. You know, they're a good army, but a lot of the list are pretty similar. And I say that, and then we get into Dwight, who has a very different Slaves to Darkness list. Jay, you want to take a look at it?
Yeah, I mean, it still contains a lot of things that we're seeing in terms of there's a 3-man unit of Vanguard with Corn, so like they can come in and hit. You have Chaos Knights. I mean, what I think Slaves does well is they can get into combat and they can grind it out with you. So, like, I think seeing things like, you know, even Vanguard with a Nurgle just means you're more focused on just trying to grind it out instead of hit you and clear you. I think you have the big.
I messed up when I was just kind of looking at the right hand side of my screen, and I saw Zinch over there, and I thought he had the Regiment of Renown, the Zinch Regiment. Yeah, it's more of the same. Knights and Vanguard. And,
Chosen, Be'lakor. You said you have those Dark Oath Spell Riders, so you get a little bit of shooting. Like those are the units I was talking about, where they can go play objectives, do a little bit of shooting, and then try to do some little effective things. But they're just there probably to grab objectives, B screens in case. But yeah, for the most part, it's what we've seen for most Slaves of Darkness list.
Yeah, the Chaos Sorcerer Lord, Oracular Visions for the 5-up. The Infernal Puppets are pretty cool ability. Once per game, you can pick a wizard, and each time they cast a spell, they take D3 mortals. A one-caster, it's nothing, but get that into Nagash, and Nagash is having a really bad day. And then Zinch marked, so he'll have I believe it's a 4-up ward against manifestations.
Yeah. Yep.
And their faction terrain, it builds up points in their hero phase. If it gets to 3, they can get a +1 to cast. If it gets to 9, they can do, or 12. 12 is the max. If it gets up to 9, they can do D3 mortals in an area around a piece of terrain, I believe. But yeah, it's Slaves to Darkness, pretty straightforward army. And we got Dylan Holmes next, 2-drop. With more of the same. Be'lakor, Vanguard, Reinforced, Corn, Chaos Sorcerer Lord, Infernal Puppet, Chaos Chosen, Reinforced, Nurgle, Chaos Knights, Corn.
Yep.
It works. They're gonna punch you in the face and take punches to the face. But you don't really have to worry about shooting, so that's good.
Next list is basically the same.
Yeah. Vanguard, Bellicor, Gaunt Summoner, Infernal Puppet, Chaos Chosen, Furies and Furies. I like the double Furies as, objective grabbers and just working the flanks and take the flanks and take their land, and you'll have to dedicate something to it or you're just giving away battle tactics. I like units like that. I think every list should have something like that if possible.
Yeah, I think with the big difference here is by having not the Chaos Sorcerer Lord, you lose that potential for the 5-up ward. But I think your Summoner you throw, I'd have to check the rules, but I'm pretty sure you can throw the Chosen into the tower and then pop them up within 7, so it sort of takes away a lot of their speed issues and things like that. But
reinforced block a Chosen with Nurgle Mark popping up right in front of you is not going to be fun to deal with.
Yeah,
it's a lot of wounds on good saves.
If you kill the Summoner before they come out of the tower, that unit's also dead. So.
All right.
I got you.
No offense to any of you Slaves to Darkness players. It's just the units that work are all the same, and it's not anything against y'all. It's the army.
You feel white bread army.
Josh McBride. We got God's Wrath Warband again. We got 4 drops here, which is a little different. Demon Prince, Chaos Knights, Reinforced Corn, Demon Prince. With wings, we got Chaos Chosen, Nurgle Mark, Chaos Chosen, Nurgle Mark, Chaos Furies, and the Sorcerer Lord with Zinch and Gaunt Summoner. So he'll be able to teleport 5-up warded things where he needs them. Those Chaos Chosen are going to be a tough screen. More an anvil than a screen, but they'll be screening. Furies are...
cannot teleport with a 5-up board because they're off the board.
There you go.
But still, you can deliver a unit Chosen where you need to.
Yeah, and a lot like the Knights have enough movement where you don't really have to worry about it. Chosen are a little bit slow, but anyway, he didn't take the train piece, so.
Given Derek always said, how do you play into it? How do you sort of counteract this stuff? I think a big thing is, Unbinds are really important. If you can take away that 3d6 charge, you can take away the Gaunt Summoner spell because he has to cast the spell. I think they'd be able to drop within the 7 or 6. So unbinding those things is really big, so that way it forces you really understand the ranges that they're playing with. Pick your battles well. Don't get stuck in a combat you don't think you can clear something or mostly disable it. Don't get stuck fighting a 20 block of something or a 10 block of something if it's going to take you 3-4 turns and you're just locked into that combat. Playing around those ranges of knowing how far they can move and dealing with the 3d6 charge, I think is going to be really beneficial. And just knowing when to go in and to hit things to stop those bonuses, like the charge bonuses, the corn. If you can get into Vanguard first and they're not getting the benefit of the extra attack from the charge, and you can drop 1 or 2, you can take out a good chunk of their damage where you might be able to grind them out better than they can do against you.
And the Demon Prince, in the hero phase, he can let you roll on the Eye of the Gods on a 3-up. So you don't even have to kill a unit to get it. Just their hero phase. All right. And also 6 attacks, 3 damage, crit mortals. It's not a lot of attacks, but those 6s are going to be gross.
Yeah, Soulblight Gravelords.
Byron's not very good at the game, so if you get matched up into him, just consider it an easy win and celebrate. I'm kidding. Obviously, he's one of my best friends, and I like to give him a hard time. Carter, you want to go over this one?
Oh, is it his Wartark list?
Yeah.
It's just a bunch of bullshit. It's just a bunch of big dumb models running at you. Kill Neferata, and then you're looking good. But Blood Knights don't really do a ton of damage, so don't really think of them as a threat.
Do you not have the list in front of you?
Oh no.
Oh no, he changed it up a little bit.
Oh. Okay.
He's got Black Knights in a unit of Death Rattle now.
Oh, that's
and yeah, and he's got the Regiment and Renown for Archon and the
I believe
Harbingers and Arca.
The new Soul Blight rules is you can bring models up from terrain pieces, like within 6 inches of terrain pieces. Neferata has a really good spell.
He doesn't really have a good
Manfred has is it like you get a free counter charge or something like that?
If you redeploy
oh, you can redeploy into combat, that's right.
Or instead of redeploy you can charge?
Yeah, that's it. That's the one.
That's how it's worded. But with the Black Knights and the Death Rattle, like he was running Graveguard, but I think they went up in points and it kind of messed up the list a little bit. So he doesn't really have the I mean, he's got better board control having like the Black Knights and the Death Rattle, got some expendable units, but they don't have the punch that the Graveguard did. So Neferata is, ethereal. It's not really scary on a, block of skeletons, But he's played this list a lot and he's done well, so.
It's fun.
And he's got the magic ability to roll nothing but 5s and 6s, so.
Yeah, it'll do work for sure.
Yep.
But it's definitely if you have damage output and you can focus fire stuff down, that's gonna be your key to success.
Yeah, shooting is the bane of their existence, and there's some decent shooting out there because those monsters not being able to get lookout sir and all of that, can't hide behind stuff because they all fly. It's a tough task. That's Soul Blight. Let's see. Who's our Flesh Eater guy? Who wants to go over Flesh Eaters?
I don't know.
Anybody? Yeah, I'm not too hip.
Their double deed points. I think most of them are bringing Ustron, which is a very big power center of their army.
Yeah, they're not doing too great right now.
They're not great. I know the Knights, the Morbeg Knights, they're pretty hitty. They can do some work. If you can, just weaken his units so he can't bring them back. They still get to bring stuff back, right?
Yeah. With 6 double deeds, I believe.
Yeah, so if you can avoid them having deeds, you're in a good spot. And if you can just weaken their units without actually killing them completely, you're in a good spot. But
yep. I'm sorry we don't have a Flesh Eater's Courts master handy. Maxwell is a member of the team. He's a great guy. If you play him, enjoy yourself because he's a fun kid. I say kid because I'm 100 years old. Nighthaunt. Jose, are you still here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Do you want to go over this Nighthaunt list?
I haven't looked at Nighthaunt in a while, but I'm not sure what Reikenor does.
A shit ton of damage.
Yeah, for a hero, I think he's kind of a little mini hammer on his own. The Blade Guy's Revenants, it'll be 20 blocks, doing good damage. Craven Guard are the crossbows, right? Reinforced shooting.
Yep.
Hex Ray super fast. Can't they double their movement? Pretty much get anywhere on the board. Ulrich the Drowner, same thing. He's also kind of a beat stick. Another okay. Yeah, 2 more units of Hex rates, so that's
I believe Deathstalkers is the one that lets them retreat out of combat into another combat or something like that.
Deathstalkers, I think, is just run and charge, or the retreat and charge, or whatever.
But it's one that they changed where you have to pick a unit, so you only get one unit now instead of the whole army.
Give debuffs on the charge.
Yeah, and it's 90 wounds of hex rates on unrendable 4-up saves, so good luck.
Yep. Ethereal army-wide is not fun. I'm not familiar with their lore, so I can't speak on that. I don't remember being blown away by it last time I looked at it, though. I know they're pretty similar to existing ones, I believe.
They can bring back D6 models with one. Subtract one from wound rolls is another spell, and then roll number of dice equal to models and a 5-up. Each 5-up inflicts one mortal. That's their 3 spells.
Yeah, and Reichner is a wizard, flying wizard. He can blow out candles and get bonuses to cast, and he's I remember being annoyed by him in the last Night Hunt match I faced. Yeah. Anyone else got anything? How to approach fighting Night Hunt?
Oh, having to play them.
Having lots of attacks helps. I know that much. With their 4-up ethereals, the more dice you can throw at them, the better.
Yeah, lots of armies have access to like horde clearing spells, so like roll as many dice as there are models in the unit on 5-up to take immortals. Like that's always their bane.
Yeah. Cool. Next up, Andrew Russell with another Night Hunt Deathstalkers. We've got 3 drops this time. Running Morbid Conjuration. Got Reichner again, the wizard. Dreadblade Harrows. Is that the teleporting horsies? 2 unit?
Yes.
2 models? Yeah. Not Reapers. I want to say they're the kind of janky unit. And Spirit Host. Guard Heroes. I'll shut up. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. Go ahead, Jose.
I don't know what Grimghast Reapers are. Guardian of Souls. Oh gosh, I'm not even sure what he does now. He used to reduce, he used to be the caster, which was always the general. I think he still brings back models. Is that what the ruler of the Spectral Host says? I think once per game, like bring back models to units. Light Shard of the Harvest Moon, I believe, is +1 attacks within a bubble, which I guess would go into those Blade Geists.
Instead of since we've got so many lists to go through, can we just say we don't really know well enough to speak on it and move on?
Yeah.
I mean, sorry. Open up your app and read it, because we don't get a lot of Night Hunt down here.
Yeah, I guess I will say just big picture for the Night Hunt is that they're deceptively fast. So 8-inch moves pretty much across the board, and the Deathstalkers gives them run and charge. And then one unit can retreat out and still charge. And so they're really fast. They've got good output, and then they are deceptively resilient because it's 4-up saves that you can't rend down.
Yeah, and Blade Geists are just nasty. They can do an obscene amount of damage. OBR, Charles Belt. Who wants to take it? Jose, you play him enough.
Yeah, I play against this all the time.
Is this the 5 catapult list?
No, I think it's just 2. So Ballistari gives you a +1 to hit, I think, if you don't move the Mortek Crawlers. Archon the Black, he's really good caster. He's got good bonuses to cast, good bonuses to unbind. I think he's one of the few wizards in the game still that has good bonuses to unbind. Immortus Guard, not as tanky as they used to be, but still pretty tanky, and they can debuff you pretty good with their spells. The Death Riders, probably going up the sideboard. Kind of objective monkeys, but can do some okay damage on the charge. I think they're +1 damage, and they do like D3 impact hits. The Mortec Crawlers are the big scary pieces. I want to say they average like 12 damage to infantry units. It's like 4 shots, 4s and 2s, which will be 3s and 2s, range 2 into infantry, and then D3 +3 damage, if I'm not mistaken. So it can spike really hard. I think last time we went up to Wichita, he lifted, was it Archaon with the shot, which was wild. So super high output with the 2 crawler units, 24-inch range. The Ossifector, I'm not sure which one that is. I think that's the one that buffs the crawlers or something. Not sure what Helm of Tyranny is, or Sterility. I think it's the
something about
minus to your charge, or
I think it affects shooting.
Oh, okay, maybe can't shoot within a certain range. More gas. It's just 2 of them, so still pretty good output from them. Are the Harbingers the ones that can 3d6 charge? Yeah, I think so. 3d6 charge from the Harbingers, good outfit. Mortec Guard or a 4-up save if they reel, if they don't, if they get charged or don't move or something like that. And then the Cohort is a deep striking unit, objective monkey. Big picture, it's a shooting list. Surprisingly, OBR is in kind of a shooting meta with the crawlers.
And he did take the Origin and Necropolis. They've got some pretty good endless spells. One reduces your ward by 1, I believe.
Oh yeah, the Shrieker is really good. Reduces your ward. And then the other one does good damage. And I think comes back automatically on like a 4-up if you kill it.
Yep.
Charles Fox. Mortison Council, I believe that's bonus 2 cast. Archon the Black, again, that's just going to make him even better at casting. A unit of Death Riders. Same thing, try to Cohort for deep striking. Soul Mason. Oh no, I think the Soul Mason is the one that I was thinking of that buffs the Morghast. So I think the Soul Mason can give the Morghast strike first with the spell. He's got 3 units of Morghast, so that would make sense.
And 1 reinforced.
Yeah, two 2-mans and then the 1 4-man unit of Morghast. I think the 2s are the defensive ones, and then the Harbingers are the 3d6 chargers. James list, also Bone Reapers, not really, kinda, I guess. It's Nagash, and 2 units of Morghast.
Yep. They will get in your face real quick and slap you around.
Yeah, the Harbingers are...
I'm sorry, I was interrupting.
Yeah, the Harbingers, same thing, get across the board, 3d6 charge, so they're going to do tons of damage. And then when you kill one, Nagash is just going to bring 1 whole unit back. So this list, I know he likes to say, is actually like 2,500 points or something like that.
Balastari, is that the correct... I thought that one just did the ballistas.
It doesn't matter. I don't think there is a sub-faction that he can benefit from, so he just picks that one, probably for lulz.
Gotcha.
Jared Noley, same thing, Mortison Council, so bonus to cast. Cat this time. Catacross is a big buff piece. He's also kind of a beat stick on his own. I think he still gets better as he gets more wounded on his big attack, the shield. He extends the range that you can cast their bone orders. Reinforce unit of Death Riders. So I think that's something we've been seeing a lot of also outside of the double catapult lists is triple or double reinforced Death Rider lists. Lists will have like 2 or 3 of them. This one has
a lot of wounds and a lot of buffs you can throw on them. It's a nice piece.
Yeah, a 10 and then a 5 of Death Riders, a Soul Mason again, 2 more Harbingers, so a little hammer there, Bone Shaper, and then 6 more discards, which is a lot to get through. I think there are 3-up save now instead of a 2-up save, so it's not as bad, but they can still debuff you and keep you stuck in for a while.
Yeah, overall, what's the plan of attack for OBR? What do y'all say?
Well, I would say they revolve around like heroes. So like those cat lists for sure. I mean, killing Catacross is no easy task, but if you take out their ability to hand out those buffs and debuffs, helps out a lot. The catapults can't shoot in combat, so like most shooting units, you just probably want to get into them as fast as you can. Easier said than done, but
they're usually pretty light on bodies too. Like they don't play the objective game super great. I mean, they've got some really slappy units, but if you can get on objectives and hold them and tie up the big smashy units with cheaper units, you'll do well just on the primaries.
Yeah. The next one's Sons.
All right. Sons of Edmond, my personal favorite army. We got Clayton Jones running Breaker Tribe. Sons, if you're not familiar, just big giants that have a bunch of wounds and count for a bunch of bodies on objectives. For the most part, what you can see is 3 big ones and 3 to 4 small. King Broad's probably going to be in every list. He's just a beat stick and hands out prayers that can really up their damage and heal and get them to move a little bit more. So he's a super important piece. He'll be getting a 5-up ward with a guy next to him. So he's an important piece. Let's see. Army-wide, they're going to be hitting on 4s and 2s. So if you can get them a -1 to attack or, change that 2 to wound to a 4 to wound, they're going to kind of struggle. Gatebreakers do a good amount of damage. They're good at breaking faction terrain and get a decent amount of attacks. But their big deal is on a 4-up, they can just do 46 mortal wounds. And if they roll 4-ups, they're good. If not, they can be spiky. And I've done 0 damage with a Gatebreaker, and I've cleared entire units with a Gatebreaker. There's really no in between. You're either killing or you're not. Beast Smasher is kind of like a Gatebreaker, but more focused on fighting monsters. He can give up all his attacks and just do on a 4-up 5d6 mortals against monsters. So if you're running a monster, deploy on the other side of the board of that Beast Smasher. Man Crushers, 12 wounds on a 5-up save. They can do decent output. They're great for, tying people up, but they are toilet tissue. It used to be, the main deal, can you kill a Garg in a turn? But maybe I was kind of jaded, but it seems like everybody can kill a Gargant or two a turn now. So some armies, it seems like playing into Gargants is an auto win, and some armies really struggle. They've got a bunch of rampages. They can pick up a monster and move it around and do impact mortals, and trying to remember all this off the top of my head. I don't recall the other ones. But yeah, Breaker Tribe, I believe if a Gargant is next to another Gargant, they get a 5-up ward. Monstrously Tough gives this Gatebreaker 40 wounds, and the Mantle of Tuscan Horns, I believe, gives him another attack, or +1 to attacks against heroes, if I remember correctly. But yeah, generally when playing Gargants, the trick is to focus fire. If you can take out Broad, good, but generally you have to kill his, they usually run in kind of like tag teams. Kill his tag team partner so Broad doesn't have the 5-up ward anymore, and then kill Broad is a good tactic. The Man Crushers, I want to like them. I really, really do, but they are not so great. But they are important for battle tactics and all of that. So if you can get into the Man Crushers, you're really going to limit chaos, Destruction kind of struggles with battle tactics as is, because they've got some of the weaker ones. So if you get into the Man Crushers and get rid of them real quick, like, he's really going to struggle with battle tactics. So you've got Don Trice, Breaker Tribe again for the 5-up ward if you're next to somebody. He's got King Broad and the Gatebreaker. It's the same as it was. Monstrous Tough for the 40 wounds. King Broad's also got 40 wounds. So got 80 wounds sitting there on a 5-up ward, 4-up save. A decent amount to chew through. And they can spike for a whole lot of damage. Extra Calloused Feet gives his stop attacks an extra attack, an extra Pip a Friend. It makes it 3 damage, I believe. So those stomps can be pretty nasty. And then he's also running another Gatebreaker for the 46 mortal wounds, and they can throw rocks 18 inches. Rin 3-4 damage. It's only one shot, but it's a pretty good one if it hits. And then again, 3 Man Crushers, which is pretty much the staple for Suns right now. I'm really kind of surprised there's no Broad Stomp, but Breaker is a really good one. Joe, you want to do Gits?
I guess I can. Trolls. Trolls. I mean, so we see. I mean, you got to be aware of the moon. The moon gives the +1 to save the trolls. It gives the squeak units. It gives them re-rolling their random move characteristics, so you can help and try and fish for a better one. Rock cuts.
Oh,
what?
Yeah, I forgot something on Suns. Don Trice, that last list, also a really good guy. I would feel bad if I didn't mention Don. He's one of my favorite. He's one of my favorite people. I give him, metric shit tons of shit, but I really like Don. He's a good dude.
I put him at 51.
He's also Carter's dad, so shout out.
Yeah.
I think he just misses my top 50. I put him at 51. Anyways, back to Gits. So looking at Brett's list, he has the Squibbalanche, which basically gives all the squigs +1 to attack on their mouth bite thing move. So nothing, at least in the sub-faction, that benefits the rock cuts, but mostly, again, they're healing every hero phase. +1 to save, so they're going to be really tanky, doing a lot of damage. Not a lot of ways to buff their attacks, so they're going to be pretty much on a base attack of, I think, 2 swings each or something like that. But still, really tanky front. Scragrat is someone you always have to watch out for. His spell is really good at chewing down and sniping out heroes because it's much shorter than it used to be, but it can still put out some nice damage. I think it's something like cast on a 4, and then you take the unmodified casting roll, and every 3 up is a mortal wound. So if you spike and get like a casting roll of 10, you can easily put out, a good chunk of damage with it. But this one's a little bit more squig focused. The squig boss you can pick a unit in combat range with him, and then allow the the squigs to do crit mortals. So it can combo well with the sub faction, getting the extra attack and then doing mortals on top of that. So they can really put out a lot of attacks. And then, you have the fact that they can bring back units on with a command point now in their end of the turn phase. So, you could drop that reinforced unit of Boingrot Bounders, and then they'll just come back. And yeah, they can serve as good objective pieces. The 3-man unit can also go play the objectives on the side as well. And while he uses, the fastness of the Boingrots to sort of push you into the, the tankiness of the Rock Guts, who can grind it out in combat well. So there's a lot of movement, and there's a lot of good tanky pieces here as well. And then looking at Cody's list, he tells us nicely what the spells actually do. But again, a lot of the same. You have your 2 reinforced unit of Trogs. This one only has 1 non-reinforced unit of Trogs, which is usually good to throw somewhere to knock out deep strikes or zone out areas. 2 big units of Boingrots. Again, they're moving fast. They still do well. Doesn't have a way to give them mortal wounds like the other list, and still throw out a lot of attacks, and they can sort of act like a missile, just throw them into things, see what you can clear out, and then when they die, just bring them back at half strength, and just sort of follow back up again. How you deal with this stuff is play around the moon a lot of the times. Understanding where the moon is, like what buffs are being put off where, is a really big way of playing around it. Pulling, if you can pull Trogs out of those moon buffs, it's really nice. The shrine gives a buff as well, so if you can get things into the shrine, gives out the aura of the moon, so if you can get into the shrine, that's also a pretty big blow to them, because they can no longer bring units back, so they lose a lot of the recursion. Understand they have to be wholly within the quarter of that board unless it's in the center of the board. So it's one of those things of be aware if a unit, one model is standing on the other side of that board, that board piece, then it's they're no longer under the effect of that buff. But yeah, it's mostly just, as we've seen, Rock Guts, are going to form a really tanky front that can do damage and grind out well, and there's a lot of fast pieces that are giving more focus on allowing their fast pieces to do damage. I think that's a really quick overview.
Good job. We've got a note on Britt. His son was the personalist Alec we went to. I think that's really cool. Him bringing his son and getting to do that together. It's cool to see them. I'm a big fan of the Anders, just from that father-son bonding. That's pretty awesome. I wish my dad played Warhammer. It would probably be pretty easy to beat.
My dad would be, because he's dead.
Oh, Carter, you think your dad did too?
Yeah, it's cool.
Damn, guys. That's cool though. Me and Jose's dads are alive. We'll even it out.
Must be nice.
I don't know any different, man, so I can't say.
Humble, bro.
We got Elric next, Iron Jaws.
I can do Iron Jaws. I think Iron Jaws will be playing next. I just didn't have time to paint them to play them at this tournament, so I'm just falling back on the thing I have painted. Iron Jaws are also go fast, eat ass type army. Their sub-faction, the Iron Jaw Brawl, is if they get an unmodified charge of 8 or higher, gives that unit that isn't a hero +1 to their attack characteristics, which is why you see Kragnos in both of the lists, because he hands out that nice 3d6 charge, so it makes it really easy to fish for that 8+ to get the extra attack. The Lore of the Weird gives you a teleport. There's also an exploding 6s go into 2 hits, so you have some nice options there as well. Ragers just do a metric ton of damage. They're 2 damage base. I don't see a priest in here to give them the extra damage, so there'll be 2 damage base. And if you can get the 1 spell, they're doing crits, crits into 2 hits, and you can get them up to, I think, with a WA, 8 on the charge, you're getting up to at least 4 attacks there. So there's a ways to really buff up their attacks. You also have a nice big Maw Crusher in there who can just absolutely dumpster onto infantry. He has the Whetstone, so I'm sure that gives -1, an extra rend on the Mega Boss's weapon. And the Hulking Brute means he'll basically be able to do mortals twice on the charge. So there's an ability on the Maw Crusher War Scroll, and then that also will be another one, which will combos nicely because if you get an 8+ on that charge with the Maw Crusher, with the Hulking Brute, it does D6 mortals, so it combos well with Kragnos. And then Anvil Smasher down here is giving a crit mortal, so it's something that he can throw on those Ragers, and then suddenly those Ragers are doing 2 mortals for every 6 that they roll. So they're gonna put out a lot of attacks. They can go surprisingly faster than you think, and they're gonna hit hard. Sort of the same thing in the next list. I think the only big difference change from that list is there is no Maw Crusher. It has a War Chanter, so the big thing to watch out with the War Chanter is it can give the +1 damage, so those Ragers can get up to 3 damage apiece. And then you can put the Anvil Smasher's buff on them, so they'll be doing 3 mortals for every 6 that they roll, and you have Kragnos in there to give them the 3d6 charge to try to really get all those extra attacks. But yeah, it's gonna just basically move sort of fast and just really play around Kragnos. So if you can take him out, that really hurts the list where suddenly it's getting hard to fish for those mortals. For those extra attacks on their charge. Or again, the Ragers don't really last well. It's one of those ones, if you can get into them instead of having them charge you, they go pretty fast, they die. But they do get run and charge, and if they do charge, they get strike first. So it is something where you got to be careful of the counter charge, because they counter charge really well. But yeah, I think that's a good overview of both the list.
Yeah.
We'll shout out Elric. Oh, sorry. Elric is going to be taking a shot at Malort, I think, at like 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. So good on him. And also, I think he's got a grudge match. I'm not sure who he's playing.
I do not recall. I met Elric up in Wichita. He's a really cool guy. I like Elric. Gabe, does not wear shorts.
Yeah, he does not wear shorts. That is not clothing option. Gabe, I haven't met Gabe, and I don't know if I want to, because he has had some of the most disgusting food takes of anyone I've ever seen, and I'm disappointed. Apparently he's a really cool guy, real nice, but he does not have functioning taste buds.
Okay, cool, boys.
To you, Nick.
I haven't really kept up with Krill Boys.
Okay, I can run through it. I think I had an aspiration at one point to run them. I think the light, their sub-faction basically gets some extra range. I can look it up really quick in a moment. The killer boss basically gets to do the same thing we were talking about the Skaven before. They can, on a 3-up, just bounce out of combats they don't want to be in. It's very shooting heavy, and the Bolt Boys are still doing really good shooting, even though they sort of lost their crit or their mortals. But I wouldn't sleep on them. Like, they can output a lot of damage. And the big bows can, again, also put out a lot of damage even when they're not shooting at monsters, but they're specifically focused on killing monsters. Like, they can do flat 6 damage with each shot in the monsters. There's not a lot of bodies that aren't shooting, so like your gut rippers are probably going to act more as a screen, but a lot of the tricky things with Cool Boys is they have ways to bait you into stuff. Like, you could charge into the gut rippers and they could use one of their tricks to get strike first, and those gut rippers can do some mortals and do combat with the Snatcher boss. They're suddenly doing mortals on 5s, and it's like 2 damage, 2 mortals each. So you can charge into them thinking that, they're not that big of a deal, and next thing you know, they're striking first and then dropping 30 damage onto you with a good chunk of them being mortals, and then you're down to just a few guys in your unit. So it's a lot of shooting that you're going to need to get into in that list, and it's not going to be the easiest to get into it, trying to get through those gut rippers.
I'm sorry, will you touch on the sneaky tricks mechanic?
Yeah.
Hey guys, I gotta bounce. I do want to say though, Preston's list is coming up. Gotta give a shout out Preston. He's a great guy. But I gotta run. Appreciate y'all.
All right. So basically, the sneaky tricks works is essentially when they can do 1 per turn, unless there's a certain sub-faction which lets them do the movement one. And then every time they do it, they roll a dice, and then for every one that they do, it becomes harder and harder. So like the first one goes off on a 2-up, then the next time it's on a 3-up, then a 4, then a 5, and I think it caps out at a 5. And so like they have things where like they can pick up a unit that's 10 models or less, so like a reinforced unit of gut rippers can't, but like those Manskewer Bolt Boys could actually get picked up, and they can be put anywhere on the board, I think outside of 9. They have a strike first one, so if you charge into them, they get strike first. They have the one where they can do mortals, or they can basically do the critical hits on a 5, which is nice because you can actually put it on even the bows, so you're getting the auto wound on bows on a 5. They also have one that it can turn off your charge bonuses. So like if you get +1 damage on the charge, they can turn that off, so you're stuck only being whatever your base damage is. So it's just things you got to keep aware of and understand, like how many times that the players rolled that and how hard that's going to be. Because every time they try to do one of those tricks, that roll gets harder. And again, I think it caps out at a 5. So they can still do it, but it takes like a 5-up. They've already done it 4 times. It takes a 5-up for that effect to go off. But yeah.
And a big thing to keep in mind is they don't have to do those every time. So if they need to save up for one to like deny a tactic, they can do that. And the timing is important because I think some of those are happening in the hero phase, and then the teleport one happens in the movement phase. So if they need that teleport to go off to stop a battle tactic, they can just hang on to that 2-up until the movement phase, and then just roll a 2-up to bounce, and then you fail battle tactic.
Yeah. Yep, they are tricky. I'm looking up really quick. No, the sub-faction lets them use the sneaking dirty trick, which is the movement one. They can use it twice per turn instead of once. So that's what that one is, the light finger. Okay. Looking at Preston's list, it's much more... No, I'm looking at Peyton's list, sorry. It is much more heavy with the gut rippers. You have 2 units of them not reinforced. You have some breaker boss in there, which hit pretty well. There's Hobgrot. The Hobgrots can be teleported around the board to go snab objectives. The Pot Wizard, the Swamp Caller with a Shaman with Potgrot, I think what he has that is +1 to his cast, so he's sitting on an innate +1 to cast as well. But it's just a lot of the same tech. You have the Gut Ripper Killer Boss in there as well, who is able to bounce out of combat. So a lot of the same things. Not as heavy shooting as the last list, but a little bit more melee focused, but a lot of the same things apply. Like, be careful of those dirty tricks. Be careful what you're going into, because there's a chance that he can get strike first and then do a good chunk of damage. And things will be moving around the board when you probably least expect it. So expect a Manskewer bolt unit just suddenly popping up behind you and be able to shoot, or you declare something to fight with 2 units, and then when you expect to get the Hobgrots, and then suddenly they just disappear, and now you've lost your ability to charge in 2 units and fight with them. And yeah, the next list from Riley, again, pretty much sort of the same. You have Gobsprak in this one, so he's a little bit different. He's a little bit more anti-wizard base. I know he gets once per game. I know he can get a 3d6 unbind, and every time he unbinds a spell, he does d6 or d3 damp mortals to that wizard. So he can be a real big pain to those wizards. I think he's a pretty decent spell in his War Scroll, but I don't know it off the top of my head. Because most of the time when I was playing with Cruel Boys, I didn't really look at including him. The Belcher banner also can do some mortals, I believe, or does it add a ward to the... I'll just look it up real quick. Let's see. He can do mortals for enemy units that he's in combat with, and he gives all Cruel Boy units a 6-up ward while they're wholly within 12 of them. So he can do output a little bit more, but he probably doesn't want to be in combat, but he does give everyone a nice 6-up ward in the list as well while they're wholly within 12. So gives a little bit of survivability, but we're looking at another big unit of Gut Rippers. You got some shooting in there to put out some damage. But yeah, I don't know if you want to add anything.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much got everything.
Yep. That's the FAM's list I'm looking at now. We got a lot of shooting. You have 3 big bows, 2 reinforced things of Bolt Boys, a reinforced unit of Gut Rippers, the Vulture that can bounce out of combat, which is pretty close to the first list we looked at. So sort of the same thing. Be aware of that shooting. It's one of those things of get into them if you can. If you're seeing that much shooting, just try to get across the board, get into them, put that pressure. It's one of those ones where sometimes you play that game of I'm just going to get into stuff and then hope for that double turn, go in and clear out a lot of this stuff. That's how sometimes the game goes. But yeah, I think that's it for a really quick look at Cruel Boys. I don't know if you want to add anything, Jose.
No, I mean, just don't underestimate. They can spike real hard with those mortal wounds.
Yeah, with the melee guys, and even then, like I said, throwing because he basically makes any crit go off in a 5. So even throwing it on a unit of Bolt Boys, where suddenly they're auto wounding on 5s instead of 6s. So then, you have that thing, like you're looking at OBR where they have the -1 to wound, and you're just like, oh, well, doesn't matter. I'm just auto wounding on 5s and getting through most of that stuff. So they can put out some good damage. And the last list we have is Ogres with Ryan. I don't know Ogres that well.
Nope, and David's gone.
I think I played. So you have the Gluttons, which... The big thing with them is there are a lot of wounds in those units. They're 4 wounds apiece, and then they're in 4-man units. They're not super survivable, but at the same time they do some pretty decent damage. The Iron Guts are obviously always the big scary piece. Yeah, they can put out a lot of damage. They're 3 attacks of base, 3 damage base. they can fight twice. You have a Slaughter Master, I know, who's doing some casting in there. Their spells are pretty good. I think they can get like a +1 to attack spell as well. I think there's like a -1 to hit spell, something like that. I'm going off my memory as much as I can. So like those are like, they're one of those units that those are the things, if you can get into them, clear them, that's great, but don't get too cocky in the sense of like you think you're going to go in there and just wipe them out, because there are a lot of wounds each. And I would suspect that like the ogres, the gluttons will be trying, everything's going to screen out for the Iron Guts as best as they can. Crosslord is a good, really big piece. Not as tanky as they used to be, as if you've been playing since like 3rd edition. But it gets turned into a priest, I think, with the touch of the Everwinter. So they can hand out, like they can pick a terrain piece and use it to hand out wards. There's a few other things I'm not remember off the top of my head in their prayer lore, but it's a good piece. It's also one of those ones that on the charge, they tend to do better on the charge. So if you can lock them up into combat, they grind out pretty well, but I think it's something that you could take them down with a little bit of focus fire. Cross Sabers are really cheap units to go grab objectives. I don't think they can be shot at a certain distance, so they're just there to go run around, grab objectives, just go be a hassle. They're one of those units that if you can get into them, just to take away those options, it's good. And then you have Gorger Maul Packs. The Gorgers still pop up anywhere they want. That's the ones I'm not sure about.
They do tons of damage.
Yeah, I'm going to pull up their War Scroll. Let's see. If it's not been deployed, this can basically... Yeah, so it can be deployed on the fringes, and then it can basically set up on the battlefield wholly within 9 of the battlefield edge and 9. So this thing can pop up on any battlefield edge. They're 5 attacks each. They get extra rend against, infantry, and 4s and 2s, 2 damage apiece. So yeah, they are putting out a lot of damage. They're 5 models each, so that's basically 25 attacks per one of those 5-man units. So they're going to basically get into things and just drop a bucket of dice. So yeah, I know they do, the whole army does mortals when they charge. So it's one of those things of, it's definitely an army of, if you can get into them before they charge, that's usually a good thing to do. So that way you can limit the amount of damage that they are, throwing out before they even get to swing. They're also deceptively fast because they get to add to their run rules. If they're not in their like feast on flesh thing. So they're basically, if they're not in combat, they can add to their run. And oh crap, is it the Slaughtermaster? Because I remember when I played one person, they had a run in charge, which made that pretty nasty.
Sure.
But I don't know if it's the Slaughtermaster. It is not, so he will not have a run in charge. But they can still move pretty fast and get places. But yeah, that's my quick overview of everything that I remember and everything I'm quickly looking up. I don't know if you want to add anything.
No, the only thing, Maw Pit, I think it does damage, right?
No, is it the Maw Pit? Because they have 2 faction terrain pieces, which is really, really weird. Oh yeah, it is this annoying thing. This thing's the annoying thing, yeah. I just pulled it up, yep.
I think it does damage to you, right?
Yeah, so if there's a hero in it, basically it says pick up to 3 enemy units within 12, and an 18 if there's a head butcher inside of it, and you roll a d3. Add 1 to the roll for more than 3-inch small enemy units, and then basically on a 2-up, you inflict that many mortal wounds equal to the roll. So basically, you can pick up, 12 within 12 of the terrain piece. You can actually pick and just constantly, do mortals, and it's both hero phase. So it's sort of like we talked about with Nurgle. It's something that can chip away definitely at those small heroes. So it's actually not a bad terrain piece that if you can get into it and clear it out, it's not a bad one to go and take out just because of the amount of chip damage it can just constantly keep throwing out. So yeah, it takes up a huge footprint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's everything.
That is everything. Thanks for the people who are still here. Sorry, Derek's internet sucks, and we sort of dropped a few people along the way, and then Carter not talking, being muted. But yeah, I look forward to seeing everyone at Dark Omens. It'll be nice to see a bunch of people we haven't seen in a while, and it'll be fun just to get some games in. Look forward to seeing all of you there.
Yep, thanks everyone. Have a good night.